be on the internet right now would be awesome.
Hello, hello, and welcome to a
Hi.
conversation on the Daily Bern. I'm your host, Eric Miller, joined today by an awesome activist. Know her as an actress. I think on your Instagram it says you're a lover of profanity or something like that, which is awesome. You're a writer, podcaster, Jodie
Yeah.
Sweetin. How you doing, Jodie?
Hey, Eric, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for taking some time to chat with me. Feel free to use whatever profanity you wish. We'll be talking about Donald Trump, so it will all be appropriate.
So,
I've had,
right. Yeah.
right, yeah, I've had several guests on from Refuse Fascism, and boy, what an incredible organization. They're
Hmm.
really on the front lines, and since day one of Trump's regime, and you know there was a nationwide effort on September 5th, protests, and they're doing
Yeah.
continuous protests. There's one this upcoming Saturday across the country, and I'll share a little bit
Hmm.
about that, and I'll mention their website as we go, refusefascism.org, so everyone can get involved. But I want to talk about how you got involved, basically. What what are the factors that you see that fascism has arrived? It's not, we're beyond the creep of fascism. How is it here from your perspective?
Right. Well, I started working with Refuse Fascism probably about 7 months ago now. We're towards the beginning of the year when I was getting out to protest more. I've always been an activist. I've always been somebody that's involved. I just haven't been as vocal about it, particularly when I was doing some of my shows, because I was very aware that there were probably extremely polar opposites of where I stood and where many of the viewers stood. But at some point, it becomes a matter of this is, I no longer, um, it wasn't about me or fans or any, it was about an urgent need in the country. And Refuse Fascism has been working now for several years, really since the beginning of the Trump presidency, and at the election of 2016, when we really saw a lot of sort of the warning signs of exactly what he was planning to do. And here we are now, where he's refusing to concede and trying to uh, stack courts and create frivolous lawsuits to undermine the validity and the trust in our, small d democratic system. And when I became involved with them, it was really after uh, meeting some of the people here in LA that are running Refuse Fascism LA. I mean, they called them the Freeway 9 out here. They had shut down the 101 freeway. They were exonerated, but they have been doing some work out here for several years. So when I came to be involved with them, it was really about, I read the pledge that has been in the New York Times this past week, and it just spoke to me because it was things that I had been talking about for a long time. The rise of theocracy and the blurring of the lines between church and state, which is something that's always upset me. I have no problem with people who want to believe the way that they believe, but I am vehemently against the fact that our politics and people's religion should all be touching or combined or even really dealt with in the same sentence. If we are truly a nation of differences and multiplicity and a variance of people, then we need to keep those things as separate as possible. And under Donald Trump, uh, we've seen a lot of people really using their religion as a shield, and he's gotten many of the evangelicals, not all, but many of the evangelicals, and they don't seem to be too disturbed at anything he does. So the rise of theocracy, the stacking of the courts, he very quickly and relatively quietly has been adding over 300 federal judges into the system. And yes, presidents nominate judges, but if I remember correctly, reading that this is the largest amount of judges that a president has put into place. And I always have to question, why does someone with such extreme viewpoints want to have control of courts? And I think we're now seeing exactly why. The rushed nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, the hypocrisy of Mitch McConnell and the right, and just their utter disregard for what they said 4 years ago, and now, all of these things combined together, and the isolation of some of his policies, and that America first and make America great again and all this bullshit that is tied into particularly white nationalism and white national identity. And, that's one of the things that when we look at how fascism takes root, that's really one of the big pieces of it. And it's particularly in the United States, particularly tied to racism. I mean, we can't escape our country's battle and history with it. And so what we're seeing now is that just being mined for reasons why the right should stay in power, because otherwise, the scary boogeyman of diversity. I mean, I don't know what the fuck that is, but it's just become more and more alarming. And I think it's interesting that those of us who've been saying that this fascism is on the rise for the last 4 years, and people have been like, "You're being alarmist. Like, you're just don't calm down." Those of us that really pay attention and that listen to historians and political advisors and know our history, know that fascism doesn't just arrive from one day to the next and everything changes. It's a slow takeover, and we have been seeing those pieces put into place. So now finally everyone's like, "Oh shit, he doesn't leave." We're like,
Right.
I've been saying this for months, guys. I mean, if you look at even Bill Maher, he's been saying, I've been saying the same thing, as him. I would watch him. He's like, he's not going to leave. I'm like, fucking right. And now we're here, and suddenly everyone's, shocked and surprised. And those of us that have seen fascism, encroaching closer and closer are like, yeah, we warned you. We tried to tell you.
You're
it's
so
not
right.
too late. It's not too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk about what we can do and stuff, but you're so right about the creep of it, right? Donald Trump is certainly an accelerant, right? But you're talking about judges and stuff, and you have organizations like the Federalist Society that have been grooming the Amy Coney Barretts for decades, right? So, he is, he's a point in time of it in the continuum, but he's certainly not the cause of it. Like I said, he's an accelerant, right? And just what you said was so spot on, right? The first step is dehumanization, right? It happened in, with fascists, it's fascist 101, right? And it, Donald Trump coming down
the other.
Right. Yeah. Coming down that escalator
to fight against.
All right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. He's dehumanized, immigrants, Mexicans are rapists and murderers. Some of them are good people, right? He's done it from day one. He did it, in the 70s, with his tenancy issues and his, discriminatory issues. He did it with the exonerated five, right? He's always done that, right? So you're absolutely right that, it's always been there and it's always present, and, it's sort of coming to a head. What do you think about, obviously not surprised that he has not conceded, right? No one expected him to concede graciously.
No. When dealing with a malignant narcissist, which is truly what he is, and I have had much experience in dating those types of people and just, being surrounded by them.
Those people, they have malignant narcissists in Hollywood? That can't be.
Oh, just a few. Well, but not even in Hollywood. The people that I've met that were the worst had nothing to do with the entertainment industry. But they were dangerous. And when they were at their most dangerous was when they were backed into a corner and they appeared to have lost. And when that happens to someone who refuses to lose at all cost because it's embarrassment, I mean, I've dealt with people that haven't let things go for over 2 years just on a personal scale, let alone the president of the United States, who has publicly lost and the world celebrated his loss. For someone like him, he wants revenge. Someone like that they don't take loss. They want revenge, and everyone who made them feel stupid will pay. And I think that's where we're at now. And, the thing is that, and I think people that we need to start reminding ourselves of this, like you were saying, Trump is the result, but he is not the impetus for all of this occurring. He was merely a really great tool that the people underneath what's really happening found and wanted to use in order to advance their more right-wing theocratic sort of ideals. And one of the documentaries that I watched a while ago called The Family, which was I think it was on Netflix. I don't know if you've watched it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think I watched that and I was like, oh fuck, because it's quiet and it's not Trump. It's not loud. It's not, obnoxious. It's quiet and it's powerful. And it is being ruled by the Christian right. And they, sort of seeing that. Again, I don't have a problem with people who believe what they want to believe. I have a problem with those people then taking that and turning it into law or turning it into how our country operates.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a secular country doing here, right?
Right. And we need to continue that. It's, the separation of church and state is one of the foundations of our country. And we've never really been able to separate the two. But I think instead of moving backward, we need to be moving forward with that type of, with that type of separation. I think it needs to become more and not less. And what we're seeing is that it's becoming less. And, documentaries like The Family show us very clearly, they're the organization that's in charge of the National Prayer Breakfast. They call world leaders. They do all of these things under the guise of, Christian help, but it really has a huge play in our political workings. And, I think the more people become aware and remember that Trump's not acting alone, he's too stupid and impulsive to do that. He is the puppet in front of Bill Barr and Stephen Miller and, all of these very dangerous people who are using him to distract and advance their white nationalist ideals, and they can use someone like him because he's so ridiculous and over the top and whatever that he's distracting while they're putting in some, as we saw with Stephen Miller and, the separation at the border and Jeff Sessions and all of this stuff. It's not, is not the only voice in the room. There are people who are much quieter and much more stealthy about putting these things in place.
Yeah. And they're not, they're not going away. They're not giving up the fight no matter what happens on January 20th. Right. So, we're going to have to.
No, they won't go away.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and once we've gotten already a little bit into sort of the I keep calling it the tentacles of fascism that start weaving their way through the court system and the political system. And, we see it with Mitch McConnell and the right's ridiculous, undying loyalty to Donald Trump. Refuse Fascism has been one of the only organizations that I've really seen consistently calling this out from the beginning. Yeah. And, it's just always amazing to me how people often wait until it's too late. They wait until the worst has happened to act instead of being preventative. And, we're watching it with COVID right now. We're watching so many things in our climate change. We see so many things where humans just go, well, let's just see what happens. You're like, right. By the time you see what happens is you're fucked. You know what I mean? What happens is it's done. It's over. So.
Yeah, so true. So before we get too much further, I want to mention it again, refusefascism.org. You can go there, you can make a donation, but this Saturday there are protests around the country, and I want to just pull up a slide about that, right? So, they're happening in basically every major city. The hashtag is Trump Pence out now. Go to refusefascism.org/events, and you can find one near you. The details and the addresses and the times are all there. I pulled up a few here, but, in addition to that, if you don't see one there, in your city, by all means, you be the one to create one, right? There's, that is the list
absolutely
of ones that are so far, but, you create one in your hometown, right? There's, this is,
Right.
we're all in this storm together, if you will. So refusefascism.org/events. The pledge you mentioned was amazing. It was in the New York Times on Tuesday. It had,
we
you
fought
were,
for that to get in there. Yeah.
oh, so yeah, tell the story. What was that about?
Well, we've been having sort of planning committee meetings with Coco Doss and Andy Z and Carl Dix and Sansara Taylor, who have been leading sort of the Refuse Fascism charge. And they're involved in other things politically too, but Refuse Fascism was started really to be an overall inclusive umbrella of like all of the movements that are necessary right now to join together to refuse, what's going on from local to federal government. And when we've been having some of these planning meetings, and we were trying to figure out how, this pledge was written beautifully, and it was really passionate, and it really tapped into the heart of what we are refusing in this country. And we wanted to get it out to more people. We'd done readings of it. I had done a reading of it. Cornel West had done a reading of it. Lilly Wachowski. There were some really amazing people that had, been trying to promote it. And we decided that we really wanted it to run before the election. We wanted it to run that week before, but the New York Times did not want to put it in. They did not want to have an ad. They said it was, I can't remember the exact word, so I'm paraphrasing here, but that it was not truthful, and it was opinion, and so it, all of this stuff. And, basically our response to a lot of that was like, and of course they said we got stricter in 2017, but we were like, so the Donald Trump thing that ran in the New York Times for those 5 young Black men that were actually innocent, like, was that opinion or what?
Right.
And so that, well, that was a long time ago, and that, all this kind of stuff. And so they sort of denied it. They wanted us to completely gut it, to take away the scary word of fascism, because for some reason people forget when they see that word.
Yeah.
You got to call it what it is, right?
It is what it is.
And so it is what it is. We're not. People say, you don't even know what fascism is. I'm like, okay. Anyway, it's not goose stepping through the streets of DC, with a Heil Hitler sign, but it's here. But it's marching through the streets of Charlottesville with tiki torches and it's here.
Right.
So anyway, we really challenged the New York Times, and they said that it was not going to run. And so we started posting about it on social media and saying, censored by the New York Times, here's what we wanted to publish. And we eventually worked it out, and they published it. It came out just post-election, and we actually realized that the timing of it was still incredibly prescient, in that he had now gotten to the point where he was refusing to concede, and filing lawsuits and putting out all of this false information. So really, coming out post-election, I think actually made people go, oh, you know what? Now that he's not wanting to leave, this might be the case. And so I think it gained a lot more attention, and also just the fact that we started posting it and saying the New York Times want to censor it. I mean, whenever censorship comes into play, I think people become a lot more interested, because they ask the question of why. And at this point right now, I don't see why we are questioning that fascism is here, and it's thriving, and it's trying to take hold. And maybe it lost this election, but in another 4 years, don't think that they won't be planning and plotting and trying to do something else.
Of course. Yeah. And your point about the timing being post-election and him not accepting the results, like you said, it couldn't be more prescient, right? It actually, the fear would be people cast their ballot and then they sort of go back to the sidelines, right? But we're not out of the woods yet, not even close, right? We have
I think we're even. Yeah, I said on Saturday, which I did go out in the streets to celebrate, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a long time for this country. And I think we really needed it. I mean, it was beautiful, for those of us on the left. I think the right may disagree, but it felt like the America that we're fighting for, which is one of unity and celebration and joy and inclusiveness. And, it was beautiful to see. But what I was saying that day, and I was talking to some friends of mine, and I've talked to Sansara and Coco as well, and a couple other people in the movement, Arturo O'Farrill and Lilly and Fat Mike. I said, I think that we've now just arrived at the real starting point.
Yeah.
I feel, yes, we had to get through the election, but like now, these next 70 days, the message of Trump Pence out now, and that the Trump Pence regime must go, has to be at the forefront of our conversations, even more so than before the election, because I think before the election, everyone trusted that they vote and he's gone and he says, I'm sorry about that, guys. And I think everyone's like, oh wait, he's not going to do that. It's like, no. And, and I've seen more and more in, Washington Post and New York Times and, different pieces, people starting to call it the Trump Pence regime. And I remember when we first would say that, people were like, it's not a regime, it's an administration. And you're like, okay, semantics, whatever. This is a regime because it's going against the will of many of the people. And so, anyway, it's just funny now to see the things that we've been talking about for such a long time. All of a sudden, real reporters are saying it, and people are like, yeah, I agree. You're like, okay, well, we could have been talking about this a year ago, but.
You know what's funny about that? We wish we'd have been wrong. You know what I mean? More than anything, right?
I would. And I keep telling people that I'd love to be wrong. Make me eat my fucking words on the internet that this is going to go smoothly and everything's going to be fine and there's not going to be violence from the other side. All of those things I really would. I would love to be wrong about. I don't want to be right that there's going to be violence, in retaliation from, his supporters. I don't want to be right that he's going to sue and take it to the Supreme Court and that he stacked the court and lose. And we have another, 2000 Bush Gore situation. I don't want to be wrong about those. I don't want to be right about those things. So let's hope. I'd love to go, well, I guess we overreacted, but so far, and I think we can all agree, nothing that has been done in this administration regime's 4 years in power has been anything that we thought was normal or that we thought was the normal route of how we do things politically in this country.
Yeah, let me ask you a question about one of the things that's always a challenge, right? So again, there are nationwide protests this Saturday on the 14th, right? And those protests have been painted, in Portland or whatever, by the right wing is violent and so forth, right? Not accurate, right? Not to say that doesn't occur, but I talked to Carl Dix and Joel Memes and Coco and stuff. One of the questions that I always ask is, how do you, in messaging, like how do you get people off the benches? How do you animate people, get them over their complacency? Like you were talking about, it's a slow boil, like we're a frog in boiling water, right?
Right.
And it's boiling now, right? But how do you get, when you talk to your friends offline and you say, I'm going out this Saturday, and they're like, well, I don't know, it's not, the election will happen, it's not a big deal, right? Like, how do you get them off the benches? How do you get people animated?
And it's hard. And I think, one of the issues that we're facing, rightfully so, is COVID. We are at a place right now, COVID is raging across the country, in large part due to the ineffectual handling of it by this administration and by Republican governors and state legislatures. But I do understand people's reticence to come out and be in the streets. But what I always tell people is I've been out there. Everyone is masked. We're safe. We do distance. Like yes, it's a crowd of people, but we're all apart. You can walk on the side. There's ways to do it. There's ways to support it. There's ways, if you go to refusefascism.org, you can actually read a copy of the pledge. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. You can join your name and sign the pledge along with us and help repost it, get the attention out there, get other people to sign so that they're aware of all of the actions that are taking place, nationwide with Refuse Fascism, and also with so many other organizations. We still haven't won any of the fights. We still haven't won any of the fights that Black Lives Matter is fighting for. We've made some progress in certain local elections. We got rid of our DA Jackie Lacey here in LA. Things are happening, but it doesn't. The fight's not over. We didn't vote and poof, it's all gone. So, I really encourage people to go to refusefascism.org and sign the pledge and really find out ways to be in the streets, to, share the post, to how to talk about this with people so that they understand the urgency with which we are speaking. And I think, again, now that some of this stuff is unfolding, and I always tell people, don't rely on the media alone to tell you that things are bad, because, yes, they'll let you know that, but they also are trying to be like, but it's going to be okay. This can't happen. This can't, how many fucking times are we going to say this can't happen? Or like, this is so abnormal. Yeah, it's all abnormal. So at this point, there are no rules, really. I don't feel. I think there's rules that are there that are meant to be broken and bent and changed however they want. So, making people see that, accept it, hear it, and understand how to speak about Refuse Fascism and what that really means, so that people don't think that you're an alarmist, but think that, actually you're quite well informed about what is happening and the potential coup that is trying to take place. And again, we all hope it's not successful. The fact that it's even been started in the first place is, to me, the sort of the ringing of the bell, of the death of true democracy in this country, which has always been questionable at best anyway. I'm definitely not a pure left Democrat, somewhere further left. And I think real progressive change needs to happen. But I also know that if we don't come together and work together on the left, which happens all the time in the streets, different, factions fighting and stuff, if we don't learn how to come together and fight the way that the right does, which is unity at all cost, then we're not going to be successful in this journey. And so, talking to people and figuring out how to unite all of these causes under sort of the large umbrella of Refuse Fascism, which is that, Black Lives Matter, all Black lives matter, trans lives matter, LGBTQ lives matter, women's lives matter, women's choice matters. All of these things are included in the fight against fascism. And, we're all on the same side. We just have different agendas and things that we want to see happen first, and that's okay. But we really need to unite at this time, and refuse to accept a fascist America.
You're here. Yeah, there's subsequent battles to be had, and I look forward to talking to you about them. It sounds like, I love what you said about
the
your
fight's
further
not over.
Gotta love it. I just want to pull up the slide one more time with the events, right? So go to refusefascism.org/events, #Trump Pence out now. Go join one of these events this weekend, Saturday the 14th. I'll be out in Philly. If there's not one listed here, go find one, go create one, right? Refusefascism.org.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's a bunch of ways. Share this video. Anything you see from them, share it. Share that hashtag. Go to Jodie. Your Instagram is incredible. The stuff you're posting, thank you for using your platform the way you do.
Thank you.
Sure you get.
Yeah, if anybody wants to follow me, it's at Jodie Sweetin on Twitter and Instagram. I'd love the support, because the Trump train has definitely found my page, and they like to. And I won't turn comments off. I block people and stuff. But the more support we get, and the more people, I think, realizing that this is a dire emergency.
No doubt. And and they can't be overstated. Thank you for using your platform and using your voice to to be on the front lines about this. And you're welcome back anytime. I love your positions, and what you said about Democrats and the divisions, and boy, I'd love to dig into that with you. So come back, and we'll talk about California.
I'll dig into that with you, and how the DNC has screwed over progressive, candidates since the 30s and 40s, and look, there's a lot to discuss, but change can happen, and there won't be a lot to discuss if we allow this to take over. So,
here. Well, thank you for your time today. Hopefully, you'll come back and we can dig into some of the other stuff. Good luck. Good luck out in the streets on Saturday. Again, refusefascism.org. Make a donation. Share this video. Trump Pence out now. # Spread it far and wide.
Sign the pledge.
Yes, share the pledge. Sign the pledge. By all means. Thank you, Jodie. Stay safe out there.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. All right. Thanks, Eric. Bye.